Hey, what's up guys? Wanted to make a very loaded video today. It's regarding a decision that I'm having to make right now that has been brewing for some time, whether I realized it or not. And that is basically the decision to scale past 40, 50K a month and go to 100K and beyond versus just stay in this range. And I got some notes here. I also been looking through my journal. This is my, actual diary, you could call it. I write in this every time there's some big thing on my mind. And looking through this today, I realized that for the last couple of months, a lot of things I've been writing has been really alluding to this decision right here. I just didn't really, cross the line between the dots until this last week. And what I want to talk about in this video is the main questions that are on my mind and things I'm contemplating between when I'm thinking about scaling or not. And it's just something that I really haven't seen much information on anywhere else. A lot of people say their stance on it, like, oh yeah, we're not trying to grow, we're gonna stay within 50K a month and keep the agency here. Or some people want to grow, keep growing, but they never really break down what it was like. The people who decided to stay at 40, 50K, they never really truly break down exactly what are the major reasons why they didn't want to grow any further. So here goes my one. There's a couple points I want to make, and then there's the biggest point, which is completely personal, but I'll share a little bit on that as well. So here you go. This is what it looks like. Okay? We're currently revolving around 40K, right? It's like high 30s, low 40s, and I'm revolving around there. We were above 60K a month before the virus, and this wiped out around 25, 30K, I would say, right? Around 25, 30K of the business. I got back a couple clients not too long ago that had paused, and then there's a whole bunch that I couldn't get back. They basically canceled. And if you look back in my videos, right, where the agency was at in March, April 2019, it's really around the same stage we're at right now, right? The revenue, number of employees, we let go a bunch of people. One thing with the virus I realized is that I thought I had things down to a decent efficiency, but when the push came to shove, I realized there was so much fat on the agency, and I cut a lot of that. And yeah, so the number of employees is also pretty much what it was before. I think we only have just one person more than last year around the same time, which says a lot, right? Because we haven't been doing this that long, so a year is a big chunk, right? You could say it's half more than, not more, but it's almost half the time I've been doing this. So these are the things that's gonna make a big difference, or things to really contemplate on when deciding to go to let's say 100K and beyond, and try to really become the best agency, which was the goal. If you look at beginning of the year, that was one of the biggest things that I really wanted to do. Not just grow, but with the growth is try to be the number one, at least in my niche. So what changed? Aside from the virus, these are the things. Okay, number one. Let's talk about some pros of growing. It's pretty self-explanatory. It's the reason why everybody wants to grow. So number one is obviously, it's growth. That is essentially, as entrepreneurs, what you live for. The entire fun of moving the pieces and rejuggling the puzzle of this agency, moving team members, training systems, every component you build and enhance. The trophy of it comes when you're able to handle better service, right? When you're able to get more clients. And that's essentially the number one reason for growth. aside from, let's say, things like it would actually be necessary if you're trying to be the number one, let's say, whether you do plumbers, roofing, whatever it may be, right? Any niche, you need a decent amount of growth to be able to say like you're the number one, right? You can't have 5 clients and say you're the best in the niche because you do so well for these 5 clients. It doesn't really suffice in that way, right? For my industry, if I look at, most of the guys seem like they're in the range of 40 to 80 clients. They're not the biggest agencies, and I'm counting people who are only working for with roofers. That's their main thing. They're not like humongous, like hundreds and hundreds of clients like these other agencies that do it for everybody. But they're in on the higher end, looks like it's like 80 clients, at least from their backlinks on Ahrefs. And the point with that is that these guys have I know what some of these guys are charging, what their average product is, and they charge on their lower end like $2,500, $3,000, and some of their products are up to $8,000 per month. So just to give you a breakdown, right? If these guys, if the agencies that you want to beat, or you want to say that you guys, if I want to say I'm doing better than them and we have a better service, better clients, and all that stuff, well, you would need at least a decent amount of revenue to match that, right? If they're doing 500K a month and you're at 40, 50K a month, you can't. It's not apples to apples. Right? It's just not. So like one example would be like a company that does 500K per month. They can hire real salespeople. They can hire real account managers, right? You can't compare somebody trying to figure out some cold email in the Philippines with like a guy who can attract, get on calls, get people on a sales call after that, and then close that, onboard, set expectations, maybe even client manage depending on how they are structuring their business, has the ability to do all that, is a full stacked part of their team. It's not really there's not really much comparison. So that's like, I'm just giving you an idea of like what it looks like, in my opinion, to head towards being the best, right? It's not just about growth, but also having margin to be able to acquire very high talented people, so you're able to actually deliver and do things at a higher scale, not just on the delivery side, but also on the growth side. So that's on the pros, right? Now let's talk a little bit about the cons. Right, because pros is, I don't know what else to say. It's like that's pretty much it. Now here's the cons. Here's the cons of growing. So a lot of this is gonna apply to me personally, but I think it will be to other people as well. Number one is this: a big consequence of growing from here on, if you're on 40, 50K a month, whatever, 30 to 50K a month, right? Let's say this stage, I think it's like quite similar. Like in this stage, 30 to 50K, it's somewhat the same. Once you go beyond 50 and you're going to like 70, 80, 100K, I think it's really like you just need different level systems. That's one. The systems is gonna need to be higher level. And that's a con, because again, systems is something that's relatively hard to build unless you're, it's just, in my experience, it's been one of the hardest things that I've probably ever done, right? Like it's like the whole process of going through and building a step-by-step process for other people to follow and not break, and then manage those people, which is a different point, but it's difficult. It took me a while to get it down to the point where it is right now, and where it is right now, it's able to hold where we are right now. That's something a lot of times I feel like people have a trouble admitting, including myself. I was at 40K about a year ago. All things happen, all wishes were written and pursued on. Failures took place. I'm back at 40K, around here, like once again. I could say maybe I'm just worth 40K. At this stage, knowing what I know, doing what I do, maybe I'm just not worth, like a higher level, right? If you follow what I'm saying. The systems that I have, the people that are in place, it just doesn't seem like we are able to ever break through this point and stay and hold for a long enough time, right? We could get to about 60, 65K and then kind of like drop down. It's like our systems are like not built to that caliber. And to give you another point to look at on this part is, let's use like some specific examples in SEO, right? If you look at like resellers, who are the best people who have, who are companies that have the best systems? It's resellers, right? If you're an agency doing 30, 40, 50K a month, whatever, and you do link building for your clients. Let's say you have a good process in place. I think we have a decent process in place finally for link building. Client comes on, things happen, team members know where to go, they start to find certain domains, they start to turn certain things on, and the client starts to get links. It's a decent process. But would it be the same level as a reseller? No. If you go to, whatever, vendors you guys use, you'll see that they haven't, like their process in the back end can handle hundreds of links per week or more, right? You just order, a lot of it might be even automated, they make you put those stuff where like, okay, this is the anchor text, this is the URL, and who knows how everything works in the back end, I have no idea, but they can handle that. Now, a funny fact specifically about link building, if you guys didn't really see, I don't know why, but links are probably something very hard to like resell at a high scale for a long time. If you look at the guys who did it in the past, like one example would be Matt Diggity. This guy had to sell his company, and then there was this guy used to use PPN Fox. Their company went out of whack. We don't even know what really happened, but then they shut it down. Then one of the guys I used to look at is Charles Floyd, who's pretty popular, the guy from UK, who has a lot of good links and whatnot. I didn't really try out his stuff, but seems like he's a pretty well-known guy in the space. Fucking not too long ago, this guy, was going through a whole breakdown, almost like, committed. I don't know, maybe I'm like, I don't really remember the facts, but he had like a big like time where, his girlfriend had to come in and say all this stuff, like how he had a breakdown, he can't come. Link building kills people. That's just a little digress, funny fact within SEO when it comes to links specifically. Nothing to do with this video, but let's go back. The point I was trying to make is, when you try to go from here on, seems like the process have to be a different caliber, right? What you think is, automated right now is probably just something that will break if you were to shove another 20, 30 clients through that system in a relatively short amount of time. And I'm not saying that you need to have everything to your reseller level, but I'm just painting a picture so you guys watching can understand what I'm talking about here, right? Content. We have a decent process for content, finally, I would say, right? Client comes, if they need content, we have a writer who can do it. If it's like homepage content, we have somebody like somebody actually just got off Craigslist who can write pretty good content, and they charge decent, but it's like very high quality for the price, because they're like a local person. And then anything aside from that, I have somebody who's offshore who can take care of any blogs and all this kind of stuff. It's a decent process. But if I was to bring in 2 to 3 clients a week, let's say that kind of sales system was in place to grow 100K, 150 and beyond, would that content work? Hell no. Like, we wouldn't even it would probably not even get ordered, I would say. A lot of the clients would miss even getting ordered properly for what they need. It's just what's gonna happen. It works at 30, 40, 50K, but it's not gonna work to get to 100K plus, right? All right, so that's number one. It's a con of scaling is the systems. It's gonna have to be a higher caliber. And yeah, I'll talk about sales differently. I'll not include sales as just a system because sales it deserves its own bullet point. Let's talk about the next point. Okay, hiring. Okay, so one of the key roles I'm going to be needing to get from 40, 50K to 100K and beyond is at least one, if not two, account managers, right? People who can directly be client facing, whatever they need, they can take it in and then integrate between the backend team. These people are not cheap. They're gonna be anywhere from 3,500 to 5 grand. Probably closer to 5 grand from recently what I spoke to some people. If you want somebody who's good, who can actually think for themselves, not just somebody, you have to tell them everything they need to do and it's like it fits in a process. People who have knowledge, at least decent knowledge, understanding level, base knowledge of digital marketing, and they have experience speaking to clients and handling expectations, keeping them happy, whatnot. That's a difficult thing to do. You can't just get somebody for 500K a month to do that shit. Right? That's a real skill. And you start to see a pattern when you come to this role to hire within the agency that, whenever it comes to a point where you need people that have experience in very different fields, it starts to get expensive, right? So to give an example, like if you get offshore people you pay 500 bucks, 600, 700K, $700 a month, let's say, one of the reasons why it is often easy to get things to work is because they are only doing certain stuff and it's repetitive, right? It's like that's all they do. If you get a VA who's just optimizing GMB, that's what they do. If they just go and set up some tracking or something, they have a SOP for that. That's exactly what they just run. That's it. But when you get somebody for let's say an account manager, you can have systems, but what are you gonna do? You're gonna build out an SOP for every possible conversation a client can come with? No, you can give guidelines. You can give overall like a proper system that they can manage their workflow and communication that came through, and what reminders to get back to and which client is still waiting and all that kind of stuff. And maybe you can step in if you're in-house, especially you can step in and show them how they could have done better. But there's no really way to put down every single system. They gotta come in already knowing certain things, how to handle people, and that's one thing. The other point I was trying to make, which I said but I just didn't give the example, is that when you have a person who knows two things or more that are completely different from each other, it gets expensive. For example, as the business owner, you can do all the stuff, right? Like you can look at SEO and you understand SEO, and the main thing that is important within SEO when you look at the client site. Client has a question or they're uneasy about something, you can handle the client management. Heck, you even sold them when they came in. So you know exactly what they value and what kind of entire avatar they are. For lack of better words. Now, between the departments in that, it's very simple, right? The departments between yourself is instant. It's you, SEO, it's another part of your head in sales, but you try to take that and get it to happen in somebody else, it's gonna be difficult. Can you get somebody who's very good at SEO and good at sales? Probably not. That's why people don't even try to get that kind of person, because it's so rare. And if you do get it, it's going to be so expensive to hire that person. You're probably going to have to pay them 6 figures from the get-go, because they're going to come in and they're going to know how to do the SEO and manage the clients and sell the clients. That's probably only, for smaller companies especially, only this business owner is going to be doing that. But you shave off even one of those things. Let's say they don't do sales, but they don't understand about digital marketing and they can handle clients and manage expectations and keep them happy. That's still $3,500, $4,000, $5,000 per month. Point made. Let's carry on. So that's, just a framework from what I realized that, when it starts getting expensive for people. So those are two main things I just talked about, right? Hiring becomes next caliber, right? And I alluded to this like earlier in the year when I said that, for me to take this agency to 7 figures, somebody in this ship needs to make 6 figures. It's not gonna work out just by like offshore VAs and then it's just like me. The next thing is let me see. So I talked about systems, hiring. Yeah, the last thing in this point. All right, guys, had to take a break from talking. Okay, let's get to the last point. Cons of scaling. Things to consider as you're scaling. The last part is sales. Now, sales, even me, as somebody who, in the agency, this is my strongest skill. Even I didn't realize how difficult it is to get sales to work automatically. It's one thing to get the systems to get to a fashion where it's running itself, which is difficult. It took me more than a year really to get down to a point where I can at least like take a step away and maintain the agency just as an hour or two of work a day, which I would consider at this stage is a good place to be in terms of like maintaining your current agency. That's how much time it takes of your personal time. It means that your team members are doing most of the stuff. But sales, if you think about it, and I made a video about it not too long ago, right? The last video I talked about like getting people Philippines versus US. Aside from which one's better and all that kind of stuff, just putting a process in place. It doesn't matter if you're calling, if you're doing cold email, if you're sending direct mail, whatever it is. You're talking about you have to get a process in place that can get people interested fully automatically. Not too difficult. It's decent, let's say, right? Whatever it is. If it's cold email, you're gonna have to have a process that works, it gets open rates, whatever you do with that. I'm not really that experienced in cold email. I'd assume one of the troubles is making sure you're getting into the inbox and your email doesn't get banned, right? Doesn't get like blacklisted or whatever you want to call it. It goes in junk. So whatever you're doing, you just have to figure that out to get people coming in automatically who raise their hand that, yeah, I would like to hear more. After that, you need a way to convert that into a paying customer, right? Whether that be getting on the phone, if you want to send them a video audit, that's what my process mainly is. But whatever you want to do after that, you have to get that part down to get it to close. Now, I did the math before and I showed you guys on video that you could be a closer for a long time because it doesn't take that much time from your day to be able to close, if that's really one of the main things you're doing. Because if you're trying to get to 40, 50K to like 100K and beyond and you're just closing, that's still if you're doing it, you could do it, but that's gonna be your main thing, which is fine. It's probably what I would do if I was, if I'm gonna go this route, right? Be the main closer until, let's say, one of the salespeople that I would hire is good enough to start learning how to close. Until then, they'll probably just be getting enough attention or running the system until they get enough attention to bring me the client who actually booked a call with us. But the point I'm trying to make is getting this entire thing to be automated is difficult. It's difficult, guys. This is gonna be a difficult thing to do because, closing in of itself is not really the easiest skill set to learn, right? Like, if you have good leads coming in, let's say you figure that point out, and you have a person who can close, the difference between 20% close rate versus 25% close rate becomes a little big. If you're closing 1 out of 4 clients, because you're the owner, you know how you can close well your product, but the sales guy's closing like 15%, that's a huge difference. that's a massive, I mean, that's enough difference that if you're paying for your leads, certain funnels wouldn't even work if the salesperson is doing it versus you doing it, because it would just cost too much for the leads. When I was running Facebook ads, right, it was costing me around like $1,500, $2,000. Some at certain months, I think I spent over like $3,000 to get one client. Now, of course, I'm not the best Facebook ads guy, but I was making up for it by closing. And I realized that, okay, if I had to get somebody else to get this last sale I just got in, there's no fucking way they would have pulled that curveball and then, you know, push that and still show the value even after all that kind of series of objections and manage them to, you know, collect payment. That's going to happen. That's when I say that this is going to be a pretty difficult thing to automate fully, right? Having a system in place where you are, you know, you wake up and you're going about your day and then you just get a confirmation that somebody just paid. Boy, I wish I lived to one day experience what that feels like, because it must be a magical feeling where you don't even know the client is having a call right now with somebody that you trained before with your system and they just paid and everything's being managed properly, and now you have the, you know, then the process starts. That must be insane. But the point is, what I'm trying to make is these are difficult things to fix. Any one of these. Sales part probably the most difficult, then would be higher caliber systems for delivery, right? If my delivery, okay, it's decent, it's good, doesn't take that much management if I want to stay here, right? Want to grow here and, you know, bring in, let's say, whatever, 1 to 2 clients a week, it's gonna break. We don't want to admit it, but it's the truth, right? I want to feel that, hey, no, you know, I've gone through this, took me a year, I fell down, I scraped my knees, and I fixed it, and I refixed it, and this is the 4th time I redid the system. It is good enough to handle that load, but I know it's not. Because if that volume was to come through, I know certain things are gonna fall. So, all that being said, comes the question. And I guess I would spend a couple of minutes. I mean, this is going to be a long video, guys. If you're watching this till this far, you might as well just watch the whole thing. The other aspect to this is obviously there's a financial point to all this, right? What do the finances look like? So this might be extremely surprising for any of you, and that is throughout 2019, as I'm growing, our profit margin was 50% at best. Right? And there are certain points where we're below 50%, like 40%. So it was like around half margin, trying to figure all this stuff out while I'm trying to grow, so many moving parts, so much fat in the business, not everything trimmed. Recently, after the virus came, I freaked out. I canceled a whole bunch of shit. I canceled like all kinds of stuff. And like, I mean, stuff that I wouldn't even think is fat. Some stuff that I think that, oh yeah, obviously we need that, even though we haven't used it for months, whether it be softwares, canceled a bunch of people, right? So there's in the beginning of the year, at one point I had 4 people as SEOs, so let all of them go. I have 1 person now. I could even let him go if I decide to stay here, because there's not much more on page to do. It's the same clients to just keep here, right? But the point is, right now, even after doing the virus and everything that's going on, after taking the hit in revenue, almost like 50% hit, profit margins are higher than ever before. It's actually a little bit over 70%, which is insane. It's so high, the profit margin right now, that if you told me that I could keep this profit margin, maintaining this business before the virus, I would say, I would probably say you're bullshitting. You clearly don't have experience running the business. But it's what I'm seeing right now, and it can stay this way if I don't wish to grow, because growth just costs. That's it. It just costs. Blank. Money, energy, expertise, skill, stress. Growth just costs that much, right? But this is what You know, it's such a thing, because this is, as entrepreneurs, this is what we live for. But at certain points, it's really like becomes a question that, holy fuck balls, this is what an offer. Do you want to stay at 40, 50K a month, and you can work 1 to 2 hours a day, things are managed? I mean, even within questions from email that comes in from the client and questions that come in from the team members, my girlfriend can handle that stuff. If I just get on, like if clients want to speak, I can get on a call with them. That will be my part. She doesn't want to handle with like clients who are upset in any way. I could do that. But really, it's not that much work once you have, if you want to maintain where you are, once you have a decent level of systems built, right? So again, going back to the offer, do you want to stay at 40, 50K a month, work relatively low amount per day, and be very stress-free, right? Each of those departments that talked about, the thing I didn't mention next to each is a glaringly big stress symbol, right? The stress of going through, messing up, and then having people on board as an account manager, possibly having to fire them after they know your clients, and all that kind of stuff. You're going to be training them, building the process for that's just one part, right? But the thing I'm saying is, all that stress and you want to go for, and to grow or maintain here, and you can keep decent profit margin. I mean, not decent, great, freaking great profit margins. Whereas at 100K, a lot of people said that, your profit margin on average, for average agencies at 100K, is around 35%, 30 to 35%. So if you do the math, 40, 50K at 70%, 100K and beyond with 30, 35%, you're talking about, at certain stages, you're talking about a couple $1,000s in difference, and massive amounts of stress. And almost to the point, I don't know if anybody has ever said this before, but I think it is true, the next statement I'm about to say here. I don't think there's anything as 100K per month. There just isn't. I think, so like, the spots are 40, 50K a month, or 150 to 200K and beyond. Something like that. I think 100K, from what it looks like, I think 100K is a very stressful place to be and get to. Because if you're just there, you're talking about, you're shaving off a lot of margin, having to go through immense building of systems to get to that point, and maintain there even, and have like very high level employees under you to tackle stuff, while you, in some stages, like I said, just keeping an extra couple $1,000s. So for this to really make sense, it has to be quite beyond the goal of 100K, right? Like it would have to not, you can't just be like barely scraping 7 figures. To make it proper, if you want to scale beyond this, your goal should be not just like for hype, but like systematically broken down, goals quarter to quarter, with the plan that you set, should be to get to like 200K and plus. So comes the last point. I think we're at the end of the video. And this is, like I said, I alluded to earlier on, is 100% personal. But if you guys have been watching my channel for some time, you realize that in 2019, I had like a period of time where I got extremely sick. I have an autoimmune disease, and I've had it for over 5-6 years now. It just gradually gets worse about every 6 months. Even between, last year there was like a point where it was like the worst it has ever been, where I couldn't even type the password of my keyboard, and like I couldn't even speak. Like I had to like almost like whisper things I want. That's when I completely had to shut off. But it's not as bad right now. But the point is, it is gradually still wearing me down. It's not like I'm cured or anything. Just to give you guys a little glimpse of what it looks like. This is the device I use to use a mouse, right, with the headband on my head. And then when that becomes tiresome, I use a foot mouse as one of the things, because it's one of the thing is like, you know, spreading through my hands, the disease and, you know, whatever conditions it has. It's not fully found out the reason why it happens to people. It's actually one of the biggest mysteries. It's on track to be the biggest like, you know, wide disease across, you know, any, like the whole planet. Like soon it's like it's gonna take over heart disease and diabetes combined. The rate it's accelerating. So people don't really know yet why it happens. It's a group of diseases that's, you know, very vague. And yeah, I mean, that's pretty much all I want to say about it. The point I'm trying to make is, although mentally it's honestly really not that difficult for me, this whole game in of itself, entrepreneurship, I really live for this, guys. It's not that difficult for me. No matter what happens, what pressure comes, mentally it really doesn't ever get to a point where I feel like I'm like too overwhelmed. Obviously I have bad days, but it doesn't get to a point where I'm like, you know, collapsing or breaking and just like really like fucking, you know, even though I make videos sometimes that, you know, I'm so sad or whatever, it's like, it's just the emotions passing through. But physically, my body is literally dying. With my condition that I have, my body for each year passing is, you know, really takes a toll. Sometimes, I mean, the last point I'll say is sometimes it makes me question if I'll make it to a certain age, like in my, you know, mid-30s, let's say. But I don't want to go there. Point is, with everything that I've said, with that offer that I'm playing right now, juggling between, hey, you know, do you want to still go for your dream and try to be the #1 agency in this space? Or do you want to, you know, you did enough, let's call it quits here and, you know, just maintain. You know, don't have to put too much negative connotation to it that, oh, you failed or everything, you know, like you tried, I give it a good shot. You know, I swung, but maybe unfortunately my ambition just far exceeds my body's ability, right? Anyways, like I said, I'm not gonna go too much into the negative side of it, but the point is, my health would probably like that if I don't try to scale, right? Although we like to think that, oh, everything's gonna be built by systems. I'm talking about 3 to 4 big systems here, right? Automating sales, automating higher level delivery, hiring higher level people, account managers who can handle shit for themselves, you know, building a real infrastructure under you. This stuff is gonna be stressful. And as somebody who can't click or type, has a very limited amount of typing and clicking I can do per day, where most of it is through verbally, and then the remaining, you know, whatever half an hour I use through like my foot mouse, it's pretty difficult to step into this kind of arena and say, yes, you know, I'm still gonna go for it. Haven't made the final decision yet, haven't, you know, but these would be the points that I'm looking at when I am, you know, at the current stage I'm at with the agency, and contemplating between scaling or not. And as much as I would like to scale it up, I can't deny how much, like how great of an offer does it feel like, how stress-free it would be to just remain where we are at and maintain the current level. So that's it, guys. If you watched it till the end, hopefully you know, you got some things about it. If you have any questions about certain parts, feel free to comment below. Peace.